Welcome everybody to another Pick a Card reading. Today's Pick a Card reading is all about what is happening for you with love and relationships in July 2021. Before I go into the normal overview of choosing the deck so that you can go to your reading, I just wanted to quickly ask you a favor. If you watch this video and you enjoy it and you'd like to see videos like it in the future that are time specific and topic specific, can you let me know in the comments if you have time about how often you might want to see it? Do you want to see readings like this every month, or would you prefer to see them, say, every 3 months to see how things play out over a period of time? I don't want to spam you with more readings like this than you want to see, but equally if you do want to see them monthly, I don't want to deny you that either. So can you let me know what your preference would be so I can crowdsource an opinion in the comments, from the comments below. Okay, so having said that, let's get into the usual part of this. Tarot readings are obviously for the collective, so take what works for you with this and resonates and leave the rest. You may find that you want to do more than one reading because there may be messages for you in more than one, so by all means watch as many readings as you like. But to help choose at least one reading for this particular video, I have crystals on each of the piles. So the first pile has a rose quartz crystal heart, the second pile has a dragon blood crystal heart, and the third pile has a hematite crystal heart. So for those who like to choose relating to things like crystal energy, hopefully that might help you tune into the one that is right for you. If you don't know yet, then pause the video and contemplate till you feel drawn to one of the decks. And when you know which reading or readings you want to go to, I will see you in the reading. All the timestamps for them are in the description box below. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. This first line of tarot cards is to give a sense about what are the prevailing love and relationship energies that you are experiencing at the moment and going into July 2021 with, and how they might start to play out in July 2021. And then we'll have a look at what advice Spirit has for you in getting the best possible outcome for your situation and your love and relationships in your life. There are some cards that were oracle cards underneath the crystal that you chose, which are pre-selected, which I'll then use, and then there are a few other oracle decks I'll use for a bit more information to finish and round off the reading. So this looks to me that most of my people in pile 1 in recent months, potentially, certainly in the recent past, possibly even longer term past, have been either not in a relationship or feeling a bit alone in the relationship that they're in. There is a sense that even not wanting a relationship potentially has been the case, because maybe you've been working on yourself and what you want from a relationship, and maybe healing from a difficult relationship before. There's a certain amount of anxiety that gets triggered in you when you think about connecting with others, or when you think about the current relationship you're in. In either case, you've been doing the work. And part of it was about moving out of a stubborn way of looking at things, or just sticking at something saying this is as good as it gets, to having a different perspective and saying, no, in actual fact, I'm worth more than this, or I want more than this. But I do think many of you have been alone. The point is, though, that I think you're starting to head towards a time when you won't be, or certainly that you are far more open to being in a relationship. And if you've been in one and you felt alone, then you are going to be more open about what you want, and then be able to assess whether that relationship is going to be able to give you what you need. It doesn't necessarily mean if you're in a relationship at the moment that it's a bad relationship. It just might be a matter of communication. It might be that you're with someone who's been very focused on their work or something else, and so they haven't maybe given you the attention that you're craving. But as I say, for many of you, I think that you probably have been alone, either literally or sort of psychologically within your own sort of relationship patterns, I suppose. And this is not just for love relationships. So I think that for most of my pile 1, this is primarily around love relationships, but it could also spill over into other relationships where family or friends, you've maybe not been focusing on that, or they've not been focusing and you've been feeling a bit alone. For some of my pile 1, oh, excuse me for a second. I'm sorry, pile 1, that was my landline. It so rarely rings these days that I almost forget that it even exists. So sorry about that, but I'm back. So for some of you, as I was saying, it may be that some of this sort of feeling alone might in fact be very time specific, because we're still in the process in most countries of coming out of some of the isolation that was occurred by the pandemic. So it could just be that some of your relationships in general, your social life in general, and even dating, looking for love or whatever, has been very much limited, completely outside of your control. So for some, it's going to be because you chose to, because of past relationships or other focuses. For some, it's going to be within a relationship that you're in. And for some, it may just be socially what's happened because of factors outside of your control. But whatever happens, the good news is that you're moving into a much more optimistic period. You're feeling stronger about relationships. You're coming out of the anxiety. Literally, for some of you, you may have got therapeutic help or support from friends to get you through a bad breakup or something with that kind of energy. And you've just got a very different way of looking about what you want from relationships going forward. And that's put you in a much more optimistic point of view and much more open to something. So I feel like that opens the energy of bringing love into your life, where possibly you may have even psychologically or very literally been pushing it away. If you are in a relationship, then I do think that you've sorted through a lot of the issues and you're feeling more optimistic about it. So let's ask Spirit for a little bit more advice about how to really optimize that, strengthen the star in particular, that optimism for you, so that as you sort of come out of this somehow self-imposed isolation, that you really are met with the warmth and the love that you deserve. So let's see what Spirit has to say. So I think that Spirit is doubling down on some of the potential readings that I had of what that could mean. I think for the greater majority of people who've come here, you have dealt with a fairly difficult relationship. If you've been in one, you haven't always been clear about whether you were always being dealt with honestly. Now, for some of you, you may have worked out that you were, and that's part of coming out of the anxiety about whether you were hearing all the truth. For others of you, you may have already worked out and moved on from a relationship because you weren't being treated honestly. There was something wrong in the relationship. There was something imbalanced in the relationship in some way. For some of my pile one, you may even have been dealing with, and you're in the aftermath of dealing with something like a divorce or anything that might have had material or legal implications as well. And that hasn't been fun. And it is possible, if that's the case, that for some of you, it hasn't really been that fair what's happened, but it looks like whatever's happened, you're moving out of the disappointment associated with it. In those cases, it really rocked you. It was really a major change to your life. That's why I'm saying for some, it may be that. But remember that you are feeling stronger now and you're coming into your own. I think that for any of my pile one who that resonates with, then really, even though it might have been a quite tumultuous thing and very painful and not particularly fair, you've become so strong out of it and you have such a clear idea about what you want. And the beautiful thing is you haven't lost that optimism or belief in love coming out of it. For some of my pile one people, in July 2021 or very soon thereafter, because the energies are moving into place for this, when you do start to come out into the world, if it was more just that it was a relationship or issues around relationships that you saw, even breakups in your family, your parents or something that made you think about it and be a bit gun shy, as you come out of that, you could come across a major attraction. Whenever the Tower card comes up, for me, it often presages one of those knock your socks off type relationships where you just meet someone and you're just floored by them, and it's usually mutual. What I would say when that happens, and I've read for so many people when this has happened, is that along with the intensity of it comes the fear of it. So I think that if that resonates for you, if already or in July 2021 you meet someone that is just mind-blowing for you, and you instantly start to worry about it, understand that everybody does in those circumstances, and the other party is probably doing exactly the same thing. So it's important to remember your strength and your optimism, to not get caught in those patterns of the past. It may even be that this person reminds you of a past person, but they're a different person, Pile 1. They're not the same person. So what can happen with Tower relationships, from what I've seen, is that sometimes they don't ignite because both sides are so intense and so worried about it. So remember your strength. Remember you're very charismatic. Even if you felt like you were rejected before, or you were put down in a relationship before, or something like that, lied to in a relationship before, this is all just residual energy, because you're coming out of the disappointment, you're coming out of the loneliness. So to me, this is the residual energy that is still there. But what's balancing it for you, Pile 1, is that eternal optimism, which is really lovely in you. And you really are a very strong, powerful person. And you will draw people to you. In fact, with that combination, you probably, and this is in broader relationships, you probably draw a lot of jealousy to you as well. So be aware of that. Maybe sometimes you're not treated fairly by friends, or maybe they're frenemies rather than friends sometimes, because you will draw quite a bit of jealousy to you, both potentially in July 2021, but more generally. So be aware of that and stand in your strength, because the people that you're meant to be with are the people who are more your equals. So yeah, it's been a really tricky time for you, and you may still be dealing with the aftershocks of it. But as I say, July 2021 and going forward, you're getting ready to be able to go out in the world. And for some of you, that's going to bring in a major relationship. And the real key message from Spirit is not to think it's going to be the same. So let's have a look at the oracle cards that were pre-chosen for you with this pack that you chose. Okay, so for some of you, I think this is saying, because I think that Spirit is really talking about what's happened in the past and the impact going forward. I don't see at this point that July 2021 is going to reject you on some level, because these would be both more likely to be up the right way. So I think that maybe you've gone through a rejection, you felt rejected actually, and someone saying, no, I don't want to see you anymore, or in the way that you were treated. That's the energy that you're still trying to sort through. But there's friendship. So for some of my Pile 1, it might have been a relationship that you would have liked to have been more, but in the end, it's friendship. And then you've got to determine, is that something that you feel strong and happy in? And if that's the case, that's fine. But for others, it might be that friendship is what's going to bring the next relationship. So if you come across someone who triggers a Tower thing, just try and treat them as a friend. It's actually really good advice around that sort of thing, because again, when I've talked with people and I've read for people who've done Tower stuff, the amount of time that they worry about, should they ring someone, should they talk to them, what are they thinking about them? It is far more of that occurs in that sort of relationship than more generally. So if you can ease that energy down, treat the person as a friend, enjoy their company, then it helps both of you, because you can be pretty sure the other person's feeling the intensity as well. But whatever happens, there is solace and a sense of yourself again in friendship. So the other thing I like about that Pile 1 is while I do think in your life you will draw a lot of jealousy to you, as I said, I think you'll also have some really, really good friends, and you have some really, really good friends who are more your equals, or who just appreciate the beauty of who you are. So that's nice to see, because there's always a risk around that sort of energy that you get unfairly treated by people who are jealous of you. So let's have a look at the other two oracle cards that were already there for you. Okay, so we've got habitat. So there's something about home here. So for some of you, it will be maybe that there was a breakup in your home relationships. Maybe for some, it is that even in your family, there was something like this and you're dealing with the aftershocks. But there is a sense of wanting to feel at home around this time and to allow yourself that. We've also got Taurus. So you may be a Taurus person. You may have Taurus sun, moon, ascendant, or something like that strong in your chart, if you know your chart. The person who hurt you, if there was someone who hurt you, might have. The person who you're going to meet might have. one of the problems with dealing with astrology stuff here is that unless you know the charts of people, it can be hard to know. Someone could, for instance, you could meet someone who had a lot of Taurus in their chart. Say this person, say there was a Tower relationship. It could be someone who had a lot of Taurus, but it may not be Sun, Moon or Ascendant. It might just be 3 or 4 planets in that. And unless they know their chart and you know their chart, you won't, all you will see is Taurian sorts of behaviours, you know, the loving of wine, food and song, the sort of very earthy, enjoy life, and sometimes a bit stubborn sort of energy that comes with Taurus. So that is more look for Taurian characteristics than necessarily a Taurus person, unless you are an astrologer or you've seen people's charts. But speaking of astrology, one of the other oracles that I wanted to shuffle and use during the reading is actually one about astrology. So let's have a look at the astrology energy that's around love and relationships for you in July 2021. This one definitely wanted to come out, so we'll let that one first. Okay, so firstly we've got flanking the 6th house, which I'll get to in a minute, 2 things that really pick up the energy that's come along so far. So the first is Pluto. That's the card, the tarot card that is ruled by Pluto is judgment. So there's been decisions, there's been issues, potentially legal ones, as I said, in some cases. It's around major change, revolution and so forth, but it can be an incredibly empowering energy, and it does look as though you have become empowered out of whatever you've had to deal with. So that's fantastic. And it says I empower. So that's what Pluto is all about. So it's about transformation. It's about finding who you want, and it's a very tower type energy as well too. On the other side of this, we have the waning gibbous, which is the calm after the storm. So again, it's a sense you've done what you needed to do. You've healed, or you're well on the way to healing. You are coming back stronger and empowered. So the past is the past. I think that's the real message here. This was a transformative energy around you, but it's not a pattern that's going to keep repeating, pile 1. There are new energies coming in for you. The 6th house is about work, day-to-day work, and what we do for others. So I suspect it's saying that the next steps for you around your love and relationships may well be from work environments or from things that you do, community activities or whatever that are in service to others. The sign around that is Virgo. So again, it's a earth sign that may or may not resonate for you, or the next person that you're with, or the person that you're with. If you are still with someone and you've worked your way through this, then again, the transformation has occurred within the relationship and you're good friends, and possibly you were connected through Virgoan types of activities, or maybe through the very strong friendship that you had. So there's a lot around that. It's also around health and so forth. So it could be that you meet someone or you build a relationship around someone related to health sorts of issues as well. So given that this spirit is very strongly saying you've done the work, you've been very, very brave, part 1, and you've really dealt with it and you really know yourself well and you're strong, what can you manifest now in terms of love and relationships? Okay, so firstly, clarity. So yeah, you've done the work. Spirit keeps saying it. I think Spirit and your spirit guides, I think, are probably here, and they're saying it over and over because they're very proud of you. You have done the work. You have got a really clear understanding now about what you do and don't want in relationships, and whether that's shifted and transformed and improved a current relationship, or whether it's made you feel really ready to be out looking for relationships now, whatever it might be, you have a real clarity, and that brings opulence. That's really nice. That's a really nice sense that you can really bring in a loving energy that is pleasurable and that really gives you a sense of being at home, and potentially someone who, the combined energies of you with your Queen of Wands and Strength card energy and them may well do something sort of materially together that brings wealth. So that's a really nice sign as well too. So last but not least, let's ask for a couple of pieces of energy advice, elemental energy advice from Spirit to give you the best chance to bring about that clarity and opulence and to really get the very much deserved great results from the work that you've done in what looks like a difficult time. Okay, so first we've got passion. This feels like this kind of tower type relationship, but in any case, whatever relationship, there is passion and love coming to you. And if you don't meet the person in July, you will be doing things that bring it about. If you are with someone and the relationship has suffered for some reason and you felt a bit alone, then passion is returning to it. Spirit is saying that you're about to bloom in passion, with passion, with your love and relationships. This is the biome, and it's about connection. So it's a connectivity. It's coming out of almost what appears to be self-imposed isolation. It's also about the earth. And it picks up health again. I do think that maybe some of you either work in sort of health areas or you're interested in health and fitness, and maybe that's how you're going to meet somebody if you haven't, or how you even restructure an existing relationship to do more activities together around that builds the connection and builds the health of the relationship. But either way, Spirit is being very positive about this. Anything that you have suffered, you are coming out of it, and you're coming out of it strong. So just go forward with that confidence. Understand if it does resonate to you that you meet someone that's kind of mind-blowing, that they're probably feeling it too. And so maybe act as friends to start with and just sort of see. If that's the case, it won't be long till the passion gets ignited. But either way, as I say, you have been through a lot. So I do wish you well for July 2021 and onwards. I think there's a lot of promise here because of the work that you've done, Pile 1. So I hope you really maximise the blessings of that sooner rather than later. And I hope you enjoyed the reading, and if so, please like and subscribe. And as I said in the introduction, if you've got time to let me know in the comments whether you'd like to see this sort of topic done monthly or 3-monthly. I'm really trying to crowdsource that opinion so that I can do what people would most like me to do in that space. Otherwise, I hope I see you in future Pick a Card readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. This first line of tarot cards is meant to give a sense about the energies that you have recently been experiencing and that are being brought into, in one form or another, July 2021 and going forward for love and relationships. And then we'll have a look at what Spirit has to say about getting the best possible outcome for you in July 2021 and going forward, given those energies. I do think that many of the people that have come to this, is one of two things I think that's occurred. One is that you have had it's almost the unlucky in love type feeling. It doesn't mean that you've always been that way, but it feels like recently you felt like an opportunity that could have had a lot of potential and a lot of chance for a long-term love relationship that looked like it had some stability around it, and that maybe met a number of almost childhood dreams about relationships didn't quite take, or hasn't yet. I mean, it doesn't mean some of you may be still trying to work out, is this a relationship that I want to take forward? And you yourself might be wondering about that, or you might be wondering about whether your other half is open to doing that. But there is a feeling that you feel like it's out of your hands, or that fortune isn't necessarily favouring you about love at the moment. The good news is we have the Empress over here. So that suggests that there is something, it's almost like something is gestating. It's like something new is coming through for you, whether you've met the person or not, whether it's a relationship that you're in or not. There is a sense of something that is abundant and nurturing and caring there for you. It's just whether or not you've seen it, or whether or not the communication has occurred if you're in a relationship, or whether you've kind of spent a little bit of time alone because a recent relationship didn't work out. So there's that sort of energy around this for you, Pile 2. There's another way of reading this too. I think for some of my Pile 2, you may have, or you may be in the process of looking at whether or not a long-term relationship is going to last. And it could even have been a relationship that had children involved. So that's very specific. It will only fit with some of you. But again, there is the sense that your connection to your children, the nurturing and the love there will not cease. And it doesn't really feel acrimonious. I don't know, we'll see what else comes up. But if that's the case, it feels more sad if that's the case. It feels more that something, time has passed and it's not it's not fulfilling the promise that maybe it had. But this could be very much a sign, if this resonates from Spirit, to be thinking a lot about the children involved too and about support for them. But there's something. So you've either not been in a relationship for a while and you felt like, why isn't it taking? Why can't I find the one? Or you've been in one and you're trying to work out, is it going to last, or it is in the process of changing and moving out of your life in some way. So it's an interesting, and it's a little bit of a challenging energy I see here, I have to say, pile 2, but the Empress being there makes me optimistic about the direction it's going in, because, as I say, this is more the energy that you're bringing into this time rather than July 2021 itself. So let's ask Spirit for what advice they would give you to best maximise the blessings promised there by the Empress for you. So this is interesting. This actually gives another nuance to it. In some cases, this may not be so much that a relationship is breaking up, one that exists. I'm now talking about one that exists and maybe has been there in a family type situation for a while. It looks like maybe you or the other party have been completely consumed, and going into July 2021, there's still a bit of that issue around work and around burdens and responsibilities in some way. And Spirit, I think, in that case is saying a different perspective can bring back the strength of what you wanted. It's like there's a pessimism about something else that is going on in life, and the communication of whatever that is impacting your relationship. So a classic reading of that could be for people who are married, for instance, have children, and one or other partner is having a lot of issues around their work and their career. They're traveling a lot, or they're not there much, or it's just they have to be a workaholic, and the other party is feeling they're carrying all the emotional side of things and all the nurturing side of things. And it may feel like it's hard to get out from under this, and it could be even things that in a career level have come from the pandemic or something like that. There's just a sense of burden and a need to look at it differently and to be more optimistic, because there's far more there in that case than people think. Now, if that doesn't resonate and you resonated much more to the not feeling lucky in love of recent times, or you have just separated from someone, or it's been a while since you've been with someone, this is saying if you go back and remember who you wanted to be in relationships before this relationship, you come into a much stronger position and you can become more optimistic, because at the moment you're underselling yourself. You are very attractive to other people. You could draw love in very much, but it's about having that confidence and understanding that. And in some circumstances, I have to say, pile 2, you might be the sort of person who, when you draw somebody in, you then feel like you have to almost look after them all the time, because that's what love is. And you're not necessarily getting the return on that. So it's worth thinking about that, because rules of relationships settle really early in the piece. So if you are very much the supporter and the nurturer to someone that you have a relationship with, sometimes when you need the support and nurturing, and it looks like you might have of recent times, the other person just gets a little bit amazed by that. They don't mean harm, but it's just not in the structure of the relationship. So I think Spirit might be saying for some of my pile 2, if you feel like you've been unlucky in love and you haven't been able to find the long-term person, it might be because you've been too giving to start with, and there needs to be some balance. You need to own your own power and understand how attractive you are to other people, not to take on too many burdens, and to be clear in your communication, because there's something around communication that is an issue. Some of you, it's going to be electronic communication with the Page of Swords reversed. So for some of you, it may be misunderstandings with texting or email. So always check before you assume an outcome, because again, you may, because of patterns before, think the worst when that isn't the case. For those who are coming out of a divorce or something like that, this is just another reminder that there may be, for some of you, children involved in this, and it's important to connect with them too. But I think you know that already with the Empress there. So this is pretty full on. Let's have a look at what the cards were that were already with your crystal to start with before we look at some other oracle decks. So the first oracles are about love and relationships in general. Okay, So this is very much picking up the energy of these cards in general. The first, we have one that says open up, but it's reversed. You've kind of closed in for some reason, because you've had a breakup, because you haven't felt the return of the energy you put into it, whatever it is, you've kind of, that's very closed in, suppressed energy. But there is so much in you that you could open up, and you could be more optimistic if you realise that. It's just a different perspective and not, as I say, putting too much into it. But if you have been through a lot, and I do think some of my people in this reading have been through a lot, so I'm not meaning to underestimate it. It may be that you've closed down on relationships for a while, and that's exactly what you need to do, because here it does look like there's been strings attached to relationships for you. Now, some of that could be very literal around a breakup, as I say, around possessions or children or whatever, but I do think that for many of you, it's like there has been expectations of you in relationships that were not fair, that were not balanced. In worst case scenario, you may even have been somewhat manipulated by somebody. There's not a huge energy in the rest of these cards around something that dark, but for some that could be the case. But remember your strength, remember who you are. And I think if you do take that advice that I was saying about with a relationship when it's starting, make sure that it's more balanced and that you ask for support early in the piece as well as give it. That's all you really need to do. That changes the dynamic, because a lot of this stuff is really unconscious. So let's have a look at the other cards that were with your crystal. So again, we've got solitude here. I do think that many of you are alone or spend a period of time alone. It may well be that July 2021, you aren't quite ready yet to go out and look for a relationship if you have not been in one. If you are in one, it may be that you need some time out, to find some time out in some way without necessarily preempting anything around your decision to make your decision. You also have repurpose. So it could be for some of you, as I say, if it's more that it's been something in an existing relationship where you felt alone and that you're worried about it because of other demands on either you or your partner, there is a way of repurposing this to bring about what you want and to reopen what it was and all the promise that it had before. If it's around feeling unlucky in love, then maybe it's about thinking about how and where you put yourself out there. Maybe you've been doing it through, with the Page of Swords reversed, maybe you've been on dating sites and that really hasn't worked for you, for instance. There's something potentially about repurposing the way that you present yourself to the world. So let's have a look at some astrological energy for you. As I say, I have a feeling, Paul, too, that you may not, if you're not in a relationship at the moment that you're sorting out, you may not go into one in July 2021, but I think you're doing all the work you need to do to be ready to do it if not. But let's see what the astrological energy is around you. Okay, so I'm going to go to the middle card first, the South Node. So the South Node is a karmic card. Both the South Node and the North Node are karmic elements within astrology. And the South Node is what we're moving away from. So again, I have this sense that you're moving away from something, a pattern within an existing relationship to repurpose it, a relationship you have at the moment altogether, or the pattern of how you were in relationships. There is something karmic for you to be learning out of this so that you can fully go into your strength and your attractiveness and the caring nature that you have. So this is all karmic in some way, and even if there has been a particularly bad scenario, as some of you may have had, maybe that was a karmic debt that needed to be sorted through, but you're coming through it strongly as long as you don't lose faith in yourself. And I think already you're on the right path for that. On either side, we then have two elements. We have water and earth. So water, it could be that you or another party involved in this is a water sign, so Cancer, Scorpio or Pisces, or you could have it strong in your chart, or they could, or there could be water-like characteristics involved. Similarly with earth, there's Taurus, Virgo and Capricorn. These don't have to be in your chart, and you may not know what's in the chart of various people that are involved in this in one form or another. but those sort of energies between emotional openness, caring, and flexibility, and the sort of sense of stability and security and sometimes conservative sort of energy that's around the earth are somehow connected to this. It might be talking about the balance that you need to find in life, which is between your generosity and caring and what you get back in terms of reciprocity. It could be a balance of energies between you and the ideal partner going forward. The other thing is that I heard a very interesting discussion about the elements as being almost tests that we have in life. And the water test is about flexibility and about being able to learn and move with the flow. So if something happens, a loss occurs, or something is a disappointment, to be able to take that, learn from it and move on and change. So there could be part of that, as particularly with the South Node here, as a message for you. The challenge of Earth is around being able to then stabilize and make a commitment to something and not give up when there is still a chance. So it's a very interesting balance if you think of it in those two things. So for some of my pile too, you may still be in this relationship, and I think it would be saying that it may just be a pattern you need to move away from, not the person. You need to really work out, is it right now for you to be flexible and move on, or is it right to fight for it? And only you can know, and this is a collective reading, but I think for some of you, there is that question going on at the moment, and that's why you need to get the solitude to think it through and to determine whether or not you can recalibrate something that you're in at the moment, because in some cases it may in fact be what you're meant to be with, and you've just got to sort of, with your partner, work that through and recommit to it. So let's ask another oracle for what the outcome is. If you do look at that balance between flexibility and commitment in whatever form this reading resonates for you, what are you likely to manifest from July 2021 onwards around your relationships? Okay, so the first one is healing, and that's, I think, pretty clear. I mean, it definitely looks to me like that you need some healing around emotional situations, and potentially if you are in a relationship that is still one that could really be the one, then that needs some healing. And then once you do that, there's energy. So I think that's the beauty, that Queen of Wands energy is there. It's just don't lose faith in yourself. If you don't lose faith in yourself and you make clear what you want in relationships, then either you will resolve one that exists at the moment, or you will bring the right energy into you. And speaking of energy, I want to finish up the reading with elemental energy. So you've already got it to some degree. So this is very elemental. It's very, very core, the energy that's around you at the moment. But let's see what other elemental energy Spirit wants to talk to you about to give you advice for July 2021. So again, I get the sense that there are many different versions of what's coming here. With bushfires there, that could mean a number of things. It can, in this card, mean fury. There could be situations where you are having to deal with quite a lot of righteous anger about this. And if that is the case, then learn from it. Don't let it touch you. Move on. Be angry, but don't be consumed by the anger. Use the water energy to put the bushfire out. But don't lose the fire about who you are and what you deserve in relationships. So some of my pile two, you have definitely gone through something you didn't deserve. For others, I think it's more around using the fire energy for sort of passion and for really establishing who you are and what you want in a relationship. And over here we have marine life, which talks about richness. So it sort of feels like the saying, there's plenty of fish in the sea. So if you aren't in the right relationship, then there is definitely lots of other opportunities for you. The other feeling about this is that there is potentially richness in an existing relationship. Only you can determine that once you've gone through that contemplation and the healing and knowing that. So pile two, I wish it was a less heavy reading for you for July 2021, but I think that if this has resonated for you, you know this already and you've been dealing with a lot already. I think you've done most of the work. I think you're on at the turning corner and you really can make the right decisions for yourself and move forward. But as I keep saying, don't lose your optimism and faith in yourself. You're enormously attractive to other people. You're enormously caring. The right relationship can come to you. once you work out what you want to commit to and what you will not tolerate and what you will sort of move through the sea, through the water to find what your true love is. So, although it's heavy, I hope you enjoyed the reading, and if so, please like the video and subscribe. And as I said in the introduction, if you would like to see readings like this every month to keep the next chapter coming through quickly, let me know in the comments, or if you'd prefer it every 3 months, for instance. Just wanting to get a sense about how frequently to do this for people, and I'd really appreciate your view. Beyond that, I hope to see you in the next reading. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. This first line of cards is to have a look at the energies that you're bringing into July 2021. So they could be picking up stuff over the last few months or even longer depending upon the situation. But they're to give a bit of an idea about, as I say, the energies coming into the period so that we can then ask Spirit about what their advice is for you to get the best possible outcome for your love and relationships from July 2021 going forward. So there's a couple of things around this. Firstly, and it's interesting because it's been a bit of a theme in the readings today, it does look like people who've come to this reading have gone through, in the not too distant past, a not particularly nice breakup, or you have been looking at an existing relationship where possibly you felt a bit alone in it, a bit underwhelmed by the amount of emotional support that you're getting, and there's almost issues then about what is fair and what is just. At its most heavy, it could be something like a divorce or a separation, moving out from living together, something like that. And there's been a bit of drama around it by the looks of things, whether it's drama in terms of actual arguments with the other party or whether it's just internally with you trying to sort out, what is fair and what is reasonable in a relationship. There's been something like that, and it's suppressed the kind of passion. On the other hand, you are a passionate person or there's a passionate person around you. So either the person that you're with is passionate and it's in what you're trying to sort out is, can you revive that and sort this issue out? Like maybe they're incredibly charismatic and passionate, but they're difficult to pin down, or they're always off doing something, because Knight of Wands is very much an action-oriented card. Or it could be that that's you and you feel that you're constrained for some reason and you want to get out and do things. But whatever it is, there is either a passionate new person around you and you have an impetus to act on it. And if that's the case, however, there's something from your past which makes you wonder whether you should. Like you don't feel like you necessarily have enough information, or you're in a relationship where you're really trying to work out, can that be revived, or would I be better off moving on? So there's some pretty big decisions to make potentially if you are in a relationship. If you haven't been in one, then it's really looking at what energy is coming in towards you. And I think for most of you there is someone on the horizon. Maybe, in fact, I think for many of you probably met them if it is something new coming in. But if not, I definitely think in July 2021 you're likely to. But you are coming off a base where you haven't felt, you could have wondered whether you've been completely fair and just in a relationship and you're trying to sort through your own relationship patterns. But I think in most cases it's more like you felt that the other side hasn't been pulling their weight or hasn't committed or something like that, and it's had a bit of an impact on your desire even to be in relationships, and you have gone through quite a bit of mental distress around it. You have the potential to come out of it, but I think you're still in the process of that. So I think that's one of the key feelings, the key messages of July 2021. So given that, let's ask Spirit what advice they have for you to come out of that kind of mental indecision and decide how to act. So I think that the main issue here for you, Pile 1, is one of self-confidence. It looks like whatever's happened, your self-confidence has been rocked. And I think Spirit wants to say to you, you have everything you need. You are a loyal, caring, supportive, nurturing, very nurturing person. And you have everything you need to have the happy ever after, the happy family, all of those sorts of things. That you are, in fact, very much somebody who would be ideal for a long-term relationship. You are very focused on that and very committed. This is why potentially if you've been with someone and it isn't really moving in that direction, you could be feeling like what's happening, this feels really unjust, and you're probably not wrong. Even if the only injustice is that they are not on the same page about commitment. But this is showing that there is a potential, and I do think for many of my pile 3, there's someone you've met that there is a real potential for a longer term situation. But if that's the case, you need to sort out whatever this other thing was. It looks like for some of you there's still some residual communication and issues to be sorted out around it. For some of you, you will recall I said for some there could have even been a divorce or something like that. There could be children involved. So there are still some things to sort out about that, and it may well be you have to be pragmatic about the outcomes, even if the ultimate outcome isn't as fair as it should be, because it does look like you've got caught in, if that resonates, caught in something that wasn't fair to you. You will be okay. You are more than able to look after yourself materially. You will be okay. And if you are young and this is a first relationship and it isn't around a divorce or anything like that, you will be able to find the relationship that you want. That this is just maybe that you've been with the wrong person potentially in the not too distant past. But you need to back yourself. It's like you know that there's action to take and you know that there are opportunities, but you're still licking your wounds a bit, and that's perfectly reasonable with what it looks like you've been through. But don't suppress that energy, because you have so much to give. Spirit wants you to remember that, and that your wish for a longer term relationship is well within reach and may well be coming off the back of someone that is coming into your life now. So keep a lookout for the signs around that. So let's have a look at the cards that were under the crystal with these cards to see what I'd pre-chosen for this reading, and then we'll move on to some other oracles that we'll shuffle and find as we go along. So the first ones are around love relationships in general. Okay, this is confirming to me that many of my pile 3, you have met or will meet somebody in this time. You already have, or in July 2021, I'd say you're going to meet somebody. And there's a real spark between you and there's a real prospect. They could be the one, quite frankly. But at the moment, your hope is reversed. So that's like your strength is reversed. You need to remember everything that you wanted from a relationship and everything you bring to a relationship, because that's the only thing that's really standing in the way. If you come across someone that you're attracted to and you just think it'll just be like last time, then that spark doesn't get the chance to really take off. But if you remember how lovely you are, quite frankly, and how much your dream of a longer term, blissful, happy relationship is a dream that's shared by many people. Just if you met somebody who wasn't into it before doesn't mean the next one isn't going to be. Then you can actually turn that around and you can make that spark work. Let's have a look at the other ones. So firstly, we have Leo. So that's a fire sign. There's a fire sign energy around this. There's passion around this. It could be as simple as passion. It could be that the attraction is very, very passionate and physical to start with, and that sort of draws in the rest of the stuff after that. So that's possible. It's also possible that you are a Leo or have Leo placements, or the other party does. You may not know that unless you've seen your chart or theirs. But Leonian sort of qualities are fiery, they're dramatic, they're charismatic, they're fun, they're very optimistic for the most part. So those sort of qualities are things to look out for the person who's the right connection to you. We've also got Anubis. Anubis is the Egyptian god of the dead, and I think when Anubis comes up in a reading, it's a bit like death in the tarot. It's like about choice, and it's about one thing ending so that something new can begin. So again, I have this sense that there's something from the past you need to fully resolve. If it's resolved in the material sense, you need to resolve it emotionally and intellectually. If it's not resolved in the material sense, then you need to sort that through so that it doesn't get in the way of this spark, as I say. So let's ask another oracle for a little bit more astrological information for you for July 2021. Okay. Pile 3, you have been through a lot, but you are so meeting someone if you haven't. And I think it's very soon. And I think some of you may have already met the person. But there is definitely love coming. It's literally definitely on the cards. Firstly, you've got Venus, which is the card of love. It's the card of beauty and attractiveness, which you have. It's also the card of the Empress, so that wonderful nurturing energy that you have is there. So it's all about love, beauty, art, attraction, grace, relationships, all of those sort of things. So that energy is coming for you. If you felt lacking in it because of an unfair situation before, that energy is shifting. And part of that is about communication, because you've got both Gemini and Mercury. Mercury rules Gemini. It's all around communication. So good communication to resolve any issues, but good communication with this person coming through is what unlocks the potential here. The Magician card is the one that's connected to Mercury in the tarot, so there is a sense of being able to manifest what you want. And with the Empress and the Queen of Pentacles there, I think that's very clear that you do have a manifestation ability. Don't let whatever's happened in the past make you feel you can't have your dream. Your dream is very much there and available for you. With Gemini, the tarot card is the Lovers, so there's choices around relationship, and it may be around relationship patterns, I think, given the nature of this reading. It's also possible that the person may have Gemini strongly in their chart, or you may, or this, I'm just going to say it because like Spirit's sort of saying this is also a possibility for some. It may even be that the person you meet is a twin. So the other side of that I'm getting is don't think they're a twin emotionally of what you've been through before, because they're different. But literally for some of you, it may be a twin. So that's an interesting thing that the Gemini brings to it. Doesn't have to be. It's not like you have to now go looking for people who are twins, because it's the only way that it's going to be the right one. It's just that I think for some that might be a bit of a validation. If you've already met who this person is and they're a twin, then that's another piece of validation from the universe. So given that we know with the Magician you're a master manifester for things if you want to be, particularly with how you communicate, let's ask another oracle what is going to manifest for you around love and relationships in July 2021 and thereafter. Oh, no, that's interesting. So firstly, good fortune. So again, Spirit is doubling, tripling down on this. You've been through a lot. You've had your parcel of difficulty. You're coming into a much better phase, and you're going to feel a lot more happy about relationships from whatever is starting to be born in July 2021 and going forward. There's also ambition here. So it may well be that many of you might find the right connection with the right person by having a shared ambition. You might want to work together. You might work in the same industry. You might be both very creative. There's that sort of sense around it. So, and there's a lot of that in the sense of wands too. Wands are by nature ambitious, so it's picking up that as well. But I get the sense that for some of you, maybe the reason that past relationships haven't worked out is that you didn't have your equal, and this person is more like your equal and the person you can go forward with and have joint ambitions, quite apart from potentially a joint ambition about what love should be like and wanting the happy family sort of scenario at the end in whatever form works for you. So I want to close out the reading, pile 3, with just another couple of cards that look at elemental energy to see what other advice Spirit would give you to get this very, very positive progress, I think, around your relationships and a very positive prospect in July 2021 and thereafter. Okay, so I think that what Spirit's saying to close this reading out is, firstly, we've got atoms, which is about building. And so I think this is picking up that you may build something together, whether it's a family or a business or both. There is a sense that the two of you together can build something that apart you couldn't. And there is that sense of longer term commitment. And it also fits with the Queen of Pentacles, to be frank, because that's also very material and building things like a business and so forth. So I think it's very much saying that there is something that you two can do together. And you can see the character is sort of floating along on a very dark sea with these beautiful planets or whatever. So it's building all the atoms of the universe. So that picks up that manifestation energy as well. You also have snow, which is silence. I think that for some of my pile two, this is talking about whatever the difficult scenario is. It's like at this point, it's better to just finish off that issue and stop the fight, because it's like it's not going to really shift that much. So I think there is a message there that focusing on what's coming into the future rather than the past is a good thing to do. It may also be that while there is a lot of passion and connection between you and this person, it might be at first you really don't speak it. You are more like friends to start with, and then it develops into something else. There definitely is that connection, but it's like it isn't spoken in, I think it's not going to be spoken in July 2021. Either you won't feel ready or they won't feel ready. But many things happen under the snow. All the flowers and the plants or whatever grow under the snow, so that in spring the thing can bloom. So I think don't worry too much if there isn't a declaration and a clarity around this relationship in July 2021. There's just a period of time where it needs to gestate and come into being, but there is a lot of prospects for it. So pile three, I hope that resonated, and I hope you enjoyed the reading. If you did, please like and subscribe. And if you do have time and you enjoyed it and you'd like to see chapter 2 and 3 of this, let me know in the comments how often, whether it's monthly you'd like to see it or whether it's 3 monthly. Once I get a sense about what the majority feels, if people do comment for me to help me with that, then I'll know how frequently to do these sort of readings, what you'd like to see. Beyond that, I hope I see you in future readings.